And one reason I like it is because it mentions the word emptiness, which is a very interesting, compelling, confusing, and also clarifying term in certainly in Mahayana Buddhism. And I'm going to read you actually the two slogans here that I'll read you two versions of them. So we are still in the section of taking difficulties on the path. Let's see. Where did that go? Here we are. So we had last week, the two slogans were driving all blames into one and meditate on the great kindness of all beings. So I think we had a really good discussion, especially after our sitting about how we actually can do this. It's also what I like to call sort of the rare heart, cultivating the rare heart of our practice and of our capacity to be compassionate, sort of almost above and beyond what might be expected of us. And so these next two slogans basically sort of take a little bit of a turn and involve the next one involves something called the four kayas, or four bodies in Buddhism. I think near the beginning of this in March, we practiced with what's called the three kayas, or the three bodies, that basically exemplify our existence in the world. And there are strains of Tibetan Buddhism. In fact, I think most of the Tibetan Buddhism views it in terms of four bodies and not three. So when we'll cover those in a moment. So the slogan is meditating on delusory perceptions as the four kayas, or the four bodies. And then this is the next slogan. This is the unsurpassable shunyata protection. So that's one way it's been translated. It's a little obscure, isn't it? It's not terribly clear what we're supposed to do here. This great text, commentary by Cheko Yeshi Dorji that we've been working from, translates it such. The yoga of protection is unexcelled by meditating on illusions as the four Buddha bodies. Emptiness is protection unsurpassed. The yoga of protection is unexcelled by meditating on illusions as the four Buddha bodies. Emptiness is protection unsurpassed. Doesn't help much, right? It doesn't clarify the first version I read. But as usual, we have these kind of compelling slogans, these kind of seemingly innocuous slogans that actually pack quite a dharmic punch to them in a good way. And in short, so there are two concepts here. One is the four bodies that we find is very common to Buddhism, what we might call the theology or the philosophy, the doctrine of Buddhism. And then this notion of emptiness that can be quite obscure. And so we're going to talk a bit about both and enfold those into our guided meditation today to really get more of an experiential understanding of what we're being asked to do. So what are these four bodies, right? These four kayas. And basically it begins with the first body is what's called the form body, the physical form body that we can see and we can touch. This is called nirmanakaya. 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 The word body is kaya in Sanskrit. So nirmanakaya is that body of form. We all have a form body. We have a physical body. The Buddha himself had a physical body. He walked the earth. He was alive, a living human being. And so things, phenomena that have physicality to them, all embody their existence by having form. And so that's the first body. The second one is called the Sambhogakaya. Sambhogakaya. Sambhoga here referring to what we might call the energy body. The body that reflects, we could say, the subtle physiology of our existence. It's more akin to vitality, to the vital process, the winds, the energy that we experience when we are able to see form as energy, not as fixed, permanent things. We're actually attuning our awareness to see things more in terms of energy bodies. And we know then that our awareness is becoming more refined here when we can do this. It's also a sign that our contemplative practice is progressing when we're able to see things not in terms of their physical form as enduring things, but rather as energy in a certain form. The average person, it's very hard for them to see all of life in terms of different kinds of energies, let alone that those things are in change, and to remember that they're in change. So here we're being taught that the form body can be also a body that we mistake to be permanent, enduring, and have inherent existence. We'll talk about that again in a moment. And the Sambhogakaya, the energy body, is both that which abides in the subtle physiology and also that which can create a sense of illusion, a sense of projection through our own sense of things, through our own kind of taking things in as being imagined in a way. So the mind is very much a part of Sambhogakaya, or this energy body, by how it relates to the outer world, and also how it relates to our inner life. So this can also be something that is wholesome. We can practice abiding in Sambhogakaya, or in the energy body, by experiencing it directly, and also its change from one moment to the next, and recognizing, having the insight that, yeah, this too is in constant change. So Nirmanakaya, form body; Sambhogakaya, energy body. The third one is what we call Dharmakaya. Dharmakaya. Dharma, Dharma, being the body of wisdom, of truth, as embodied by the Buddha or a great enlightened being. Basically, it is that sense of omnipresent consciousness that's not just within us, but everything. Dharmakaya. So in a way, Dharmakaya is both wisdom, but it's also that sense of clear, wakeful consciousness that exists beyond just ourselves. So, and this is right view here sees Dharmakaya as this interconnectedness, this interdependent, interconnected process of truth, of consciousness, of cause and effect too. But it's our realization of that, and the wholesomeness we bring to it, that imbues it as Dharmakaya, as sort of a wisdom body, if you will. And so here Manjushri is very much present in that. And then, so those are the three kayas that we often will find in Buddhism. And as I said earlier, some of the Tibetan tradition includes a fourth body, which is Svabhavika Kaya. Svabhavika Kaya. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. Svabhavika Kaya. Svabhavika Kaya. I'm not sure where the accent goes on this one. But what this body entails is a fully purified aggregate of the first three, that it is the unity body. We might call the unity body. I personally like that term much more than, say, the purified body or the clear body. That might work too, but the unity body really gets to the non-duality that is basically being taught to us through the wisdom body. The wisdom body is there as, in a way, almost a unified conscious entity from which we derive truth and wisdom, as represented by the Buddha or other enlightened masters. And the Svabhavikaya is that unification that arises from those first three. So, so how do these four bodies then relate to this Lojong slogan? To see all things, basically to see our tendency to project onto all of these things. And the second part of that, or rather the second Lojong slogan in this series, or the next Lojong slogan in the series, is to cultivate a sense of emptiness. And that is to be able to view our moment-to-moment reality through the eyes of unconditioned awareness. That emptiness is seeing all aspects of who we are and all aspects of the world as not having any kind of inherentness to it. So for example, maybe this book that I'm holding, or this glass. I have this glass. It's not a clean glass, you can tell. I had coconut milk in here with a bunch of other things. Delicious. But the contents of this glass were all empty in that they were conditions that came together by putting in toasted coconut seltzer water with coconut cream and a splash of vanilla and some ice. No rum, that comes later. I'm joking. But the point being that the inherentness of that concoction was made up of different aggregates. But there was no sort of what we might call mocktail on its own here. It was, I put it together and now it's gone. It's in here now. But the point being that ourselves, we're in a way like that too. Even the glass itself is made up of composite phenomena, and it's impermanent. There is no inherent glassness to it. And we can sort of get into this sort of philosophical, this classic philosophical dialogue about what makes a glass and all of that. The point here, though, isn't to try to sort of twist our mind, but rather to sort of point out that what makes this glass a glass is ephemeral too. Whether it's use, how we use it, or intention for it. But this glass used to not be a glass. It used to be minerals, perhaps. I don't know what makes glass. Silica, crystalline silica, perhaps. Minerals, but that had to be forged. And one day this will go back into the earth in some form. So the point here is to sort of ascertain how our conceptual mind may be projecting onto things an inherent identity that doesn't really exist. It doesn't mean there's nothing there, but it means that what we perceive to be a glass or a book is simply a concept about something, but that its actual existence, there is no bookness in a book, only in our perception of the book. In the same way, for me, Chris, where is Chrisness in me? Is it my physical body? Is it my nirmanakaya, how I sort of how I look, and kind of my cellular makeup, and so on and so forth? Is it my mind? Is it my heart? I like to think it's my heart that defines me, but even that, if you open up the body, you don't find a Chrisness in me. You find an aggregate of many different dimensions that make up who I am from one moment to the next. Someday I won't be here anymore, certainly not in this form. There will be no me. And so the truth of impermanence here, we're being asked to see things as ephemeral in many ways, that there is no enduring, conceptual, real identity to who I am, but there is something here. There is an experience, a tangible, palpable experience. I certainly experience myself. And you are sort of witnessing me as well from your side. And that's fine. There is usefulness here, and there is practicality here, but the point is what we sort of project onto ourselves or onto others are really sort of ephemeral concepts that we're using. And so this Lojong slogan is encouraging us to say, you know, kind of like view all things as dreamlike, the slogan we did many weeks ago. Not to take it too seriously that what I experience to be me in this sense that is to be permanent, or that Chris is a permanent, enduring, inherent thing, because he isn't. He isn't. And that can kind of rattle our sense of ego. This sense of I-ness feels threatened by that. But the sense of consciousness, of mind that is open and clear and luminous, is most definitely not threatened by that. Nor is it in any of you. There's not all of us fears basically not existing, but one part of us does. One part of us doesn't like hearing that we're not permanent or that there is no me. That doesn't mean we don't have patterns and thoughts and things that are important to us, and you know, great love for family and spouses and children and all of that. But what it does mean is that we need to see sort of this physical form body as being in constant change, as well as the energy body. We experience that energy body as constantly things arising and dispersing. And the wisdom body, even that is something that is kind of flowing depending on what it is that our realization might be. And so I think the importance of this fourth body that we find here, what I'm calling the unity body, is understood to be that which is finally changeless. That non-dual open awareness at its very heart, what we might call sort of the ground of our being, is thought to be unchanging because it is unmanifested. It's undifferentiated awareness. And so that's the good news. Basically, that is emptiness. Emptiness is that quality of undifferentiated open awareness that is bright and lucid and luminous. The Buddha said, luminous is this mind brilliantly shining, free of all attachments to it. The fact that there is no more conditioning onto our awareness. Our awareness isn't conditioned anyway. It acts as a reflector, as a mirror of things that are happening in the ordinary mind. And once that stops and we're able just to abide there, then we are abiding in what is called emptiness. Emptiness ultimately is not the best translation of the word shunyata. Shunyata. It is more akin to, say, openness, to boundless openness, to sort of a clear, what we might call suchness, a mind of awareness that is so firmly rooted in this moment and so open and clear, without all the clutter and all the content is sort of feeding us thoughts, that we are bright and open and luminous and radiant. That is this quality of emptiness where conditioning is no longer acting on us, where we're no longer reactive or having to put things together into packages and then see things a certain way to fit our understanding of the world. Basically, relinquishing all of that into what we can also call beginner's mind, bearing witness, and such. So we're being asked in these slogans to consider among these four bodies that we're being told are ultimately aspects of mind and body here not being separate, but to consider to what degree our patterns and our beliefs and our concepts are limiting our experience of these four bodies. And thus, the purification that's spoken about in the fourth body, the unity body, becomes almost a clarity of mind. This is really kind of the ultimate form of purification, is full-on clarity. The wisdom, the sharp, open clarity of Manjushri. That quality of natural awareness, when we're sitting and the mind pops open and there's no more fluctuations, and even if there are ripples, the container here is our own bearing witness, our own presence that is both full of equanimity as well as compassion and luminosity, all of these abiding in emptiness. This is who we ultimately are beneath it all. So emptiness, some people will sort of balk at emptiness thinking that it means nothingness or that nothing exists. And that's a misinterpretation. That's not, certainly not what Buddhism is saying. There are certain schools that, um, even in Buddhism, that do say that nothing is real, that nothing really exists. Everything is a product of our own mind. And in a way, that's sort of an extreme. It's sort of a shift into this extreme view that all things are created by mind. Well, that's not really the right attitude or the right spirit reflecting the teachings, but rather that we recognize that the things we're perceiving are happening in this relative conceptual realm that are really quite limited and don't always reflect reality. Very seldomly does it reflect a full picture of reality. That's really the meaning of emptiness here. So there is an experience, there is an open, conscious brightness of mind, of vitality, a vibrancy of mind. But it's really quite clear. It's really quite a refuge as well. So a lot of our practice is trying to sort of get us there. And maybe we drop in just for a moment, for a second, during a meditation, even if it's half a second. We've had an experience, we've had an imprint here that's maybe very subtle, but we're not the same. So not to lament if it's like, wow, Chris, you're talking about all this great sort of experiences we can have. Maybe I've only touched in once and I'm trying to get back to it. But that one experience was profound. It was extraordinary to be so ordinary to who we are. So, yeah, often these qualities can be made to seem like, well, no, they're all ordinary. It's everything out there that is unusual. That life, as we project the mind outwards, is unusual and maybe not quite so natural. Actually, it's all quite natural. But this mind of emptiness is quite extraordinary, and also allows us a way to experience being in the world where we're able to experience great love, unobstructed by the complexities of things. It's just self-evident. Or great sense of joy, a deep sense of joy that doesn't depend on what the world gives us, but rather what we bring to the world. That in its own being joyful. A sense of warmth, of profound warmth. It isn't about what can I get in exchange for it. It's just this warmth is ultimately coming from this deeply natural place. It's that part of us that can practice what's called empathetic joy, a sense of really taking delight and deep appreciation in the good fortune and the well-being of other people. Anyway, so these are all qualities of that state of emptiness, and that state of emptiness that is both extraordinarily creative, extraordinarily insightful. The potential that we have as human beings arising from that place is really quite unlimited. So I feel like this is another pep talk this week. But this is what I enjoy about these Lojong slogans, is that they are little windows into something profound. And they're meant to encourage us. They're meant to say, hey, good, stay on the path. And if you slip, here's something to remember. That's what they're for. That's what Atisha really put these together for, was almost to be in our corner to say, hey, don't forget this. So if we practice the energy body, the Nirmanakaya, the Sambhogakaya, the Dharmakaya, the Svabhivakakaya, we can practice them in such a way that we remember how beautiful it can be to remember those experiences, each of them in their own right, when we're able to abide in an open, undistracted way.